What's up YouTube, it's me, Vaz, here with another video, and today we got a battle of the giants here. Both of these people have massive influence over the world, and today we're going to be pinning these two up against each other, and we're going to see who was morally better in the long run with their actions, their teachings, and their beliefs, and even their personality. And who am I alluding to? Well, you already seen in the title, but we're gonna start in this corner. We have the juggernaut of the Middle East. He is considered the last prophet of the Abrahamic religions, the one, the only, Muhammad. And now we go to this corner. We have the Prince of Peace, the Alpha and Omega, Jesus Christ. Why don't we start with Jesus here? Jesus was very different for his time with regards to women. For example, he had female followers among him, which at the time was viewed as very scandalous. He also publicly interacted with women, which again also was something taboo at the time, that we shouldn't be talking to women in public. He let Mary, the sister of Lazarus, anoint his feet and his head for his burial, which again, that was something super scandalous, that a woman would touch Jesus, a man's feet, especially with her hair showing. That was something totally scandalous at the time, but yet Jesus was open to this. He was like, no, this woman is doing something for me because, well, I am God. And also, when Jesus rose from the dead, who was the first group of people that saw him resurrected? Of course, that is women that saw him, which again was something totally bizarre if you wanted to prove your story that you were resurrected, because women's testimonies were not viewed highly. So having a group of women seeing the resurrected Jesus for the first time was something revolutionary to be even considered, and yet he did this because of how highly he viewed women. All this goes to show is how Jesus views women so highly in society. He elevated women to the equal stature with men at the time. Even though they have different roles, they were still viewed equally. Now let's look at Muhammad. Now, I can give some credit. Muhammad did give some rights to women at his time. He gave women the right to buy property, which was something super different at the time. He also prohibited infanticide, which again, something that was commonly done at the time that women would do to their children. But he was like, nope, no more, this is wrong. And it really uplifted women at the time. He also gave some rights to women for like separation or divorce for certain instances, which was again completely different. Usually the man was the only one allowed to divorce at the time, but giving that women the right to divorce or separate in certain occasions was something kind of new and did give rights to women. But Muhammad ain't perfect, even though some people claim to be. He had horrible views on women as well, like allowing men to hit their wives. Yes, that is true. He allowed women to get hit by their husbands. He considered women to be stupid because of Eve's sin and because of the fall. A bunch of times in the Quran, we see that one man equals about two women. So there's a clear view that women are just viewed as inferior to men. And why don't we look at those women rights in Arab countries today? Why don't we see how Muhammad's views have shaped us today? Oh yeah, that ain't too good, isn't it? They have some, if I was a woman in that country, I wouldn't, that would suck. I would try to run away as fast as I could. But why don't we see who won this round? Now, Muhammad did do some things for women at the time. He did give some rights away, but this is kind of a no-brainer. Jesus just dominates in this category. The way he viewed women was something so high in society, giving the equalness of a man to a woman, showing his glorified body, his resurrected body to women was something extraordinarily, something crazy that Jesus would do, yet he did it because he viewed women as equal to men. This round definitely goes to Jesus. Well, what was Jesus' view on his enemies or unbelievers? There is a very, very famous teaching of Jesus, which is to love your enemies. He also helped people who weren't considered believers, like the Roman centurion, the woman of the well, or the woman who had the demon-possessed daughter. Jesus also gave the parable of the Good Samaritan. He was trying to show Jews that, hey, even a Samaritan can be a good person. Even a Samaritan can show kindness and show the love of God to his enemy, a Jew. And he used this parable to teach people. Jesus taught his followers to love those, even those who were considered the enemies or unbelievers to them. Now let's see with Muhammad. At first, Muhammad did preach peacefully to the pagans at Mecca. And at first, he did view Christians and Jews to be considered the people of the book. So he did have a high view of Christians and Jews at first. But later in life, we see some quotes that he actually had a disdain for Christians and Jews. Let's look at this quote right here from the Quran. "O believers, take neither Jews nor Christians as guardians. They are guardians of each other. Whomever does so will be counted as one of them. Surely Allah does not guide the wrongdoing people." He had a clear disdain for Jews. In one of the hadiths, we see that Muhammad told his followers that if a Jew was hiding behind a tree, and from an Islamic person, from a Muslim, the tree would come to life and tell the Muslims, hey, there's a Jew behind me. And so the Muslims can go behind the tree and capture the Jew.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
He even states in Sharia law that if someone is not a believer of Islam, they would have to pay taxes. And if they refuse to pay taxes, or if they kept practicing their religion by, trying to preach the gospel or trying to preach Judaism or something to other Muslims, then they would be imprisoned and ultimately executed. So we see that Muhammad wasn't really nice towards his enemies. This is a very, very clear winner for Jesus. Jesus had a super high view of marriage. He said that marriage should be between one man and one woman, and that they shall become one, in meaning one flesh. And he also talks about divorce, how divorce should not be something that should be done. It was not a part of God's plan. And the only exception he gives is when it comes to cheating or adultery. But we also see how Jesus influences Paul, one of his followers. Paul states in his letters that how a man should love his wife like how Jesus loves the church, a sacrificial love. So Jesus' view on marriage, even in society, is pretty viewed as positive. It's actually good. Now, Muhammad, on the other hand, that guy married 11 wives, and he claimed that God told him to marry 11 women. And then he tells his followers, hey, well, you guys can't marry 11. You guys can only marry 4. If you go after 5, like if you go 5, that's just bad in God's view, in Allah's view. But 4?
My granny called, she said, Travis, you work too hard. Don't worry, you forget about me.
And we cannot go without saying how Muhammad married a 6-year-old and then did the thing with her at 9. 9 years old.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
But it just gets pretty worse because he also married his son's wife. Well, technically it was his adopted son, but Muhammad saw his wife's son. He liked her, but he was like, I can't marry her because it's my wife's son. But his son was like, no, you are the prophet. I'm going to give you my wife, but I'm going to divorce her so you can take my wife, but also so it won't feel as bad. The Prophet Muhammad was like, oh, well, God actually abolished adoption, so you're not my son anymore, so it's totally okay for me to marry your wife.
Huh?
This is a clear winner for Jesus. I mean, there's no way defending Muhammad. We're gonna see how they reacted in their death. Because when you're at your wit's end, when you're at the final moments of your life, that's when pretty much the true you comes out. You already know you're going, and you just wanna say the last thing that you have in your mind. And Jesus' death sums him up really well. When Jesus was on the cross, he looked upon his enemies, he looked upon the Jewish people, he looked upon the Romans, and he looked up to God, his Father, and said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." Even though he's been tortured, brutally hit, spat on, put in the crown of thorns, in pain and agony for hours, he still looked upon those people, the people that put him on the cross and nailed him on the cross, and forgave them. If it isn't some loving being, the love of God right there, I don't know what is. Jesus showed, even in his death, how perfectly moral he was, a perfect man on earth. Now let's see Muhammad. Well, Muhammad has, it's not a consensus how he died. All we kind of know is that Muhammad died next to Aisha, the 9-year-old. She wasn't 9, she was 18 at the time. He died by some Jewish woman, like poisoning him. That's what some people say, but what we believe is that the Jewish woman poisoned him and later on had some effects. And some of the final words that Muhammad, graced upon this earth was this: "May Allah curse the Jews and the Christians, for they built the places of worship at the graves of their prophets." Jesus at his death showed forgiveness. And Muhammad cursed his enemies, cursed the Christians, cursed the Jews. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear Jesus is way better. So we're at the end here, and let's see who won, and yeah, it's not even close. Jesus won. I mean, it's pretty clear Jesus won. Muhammad, he's done. He had some little good things in him, but Jesus is perfect. Muhammad isn't. So that concludes the video. If you liked my videos, if you like these videos, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Ring that notification bell button. And as I always say at the end of my videos, God bless and see you later.